The time is 7:55. Clerk Ruiz, please take roll.
Trustee Anguiano,
Present.
Trustee Martinez-Lara,
Present.
Trustee Novales.
Present.
I am present. President Troutman.
Present.
Please let the record reflect that we have a quorum.
Item 3.1, report from closed session. Clerk Ruiz, please share.
Item 2.1, in closed session, the board received information and was updated. Item 2.2, in closed session, the board received information and was updated. Item 2.3, in closed session, the board received information and was updated.
Thank you. Item 3.2, opportunity for community comment, open session items. At this time, I would like to invite Maria Lopez Torres up to the podium.
Individuals who wish to address the board on matters which affect the district and its programs are requested to complete a request to address Board of Trustees card and submit it to the administrative assistant. Speakers are asked to limit comments to 3 minutes. While the board welcomes input from the community, they will not respond or take action during public comments. The board may decide to refer matters to the district staff or take under advisement for a future meeting. All speakers are reminded to be respectful and courteous.
Cabinet, and members of our community. I am here on behalf of our football parents of our community. Our student football lockers at the high school are still broken, and our field and away side bleachers are covered up in graffiti. Parents have brought this up to admin when school ended last school year, and about the graffiti when school came back from CIF after Dead Week. Parents were assured that lockers were going to get fixed when they put the work order in last school year. We would love to have the lockers fixed and the graffiti cleaned up by the first game of the season, which is August 29th. Unfortunately, it won't be ready in time for the scrimmage game, which is tomorrow. Also, admin had told parents that they have cameras on the field and they were going to find out who did it. But other people are saying that cameras in the area are not working. These are some of the concerns that parents had brought to my attention and wanted to bring up to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 3.3, BTA comments. I would like to invite BTA President Anthony Garcia. Is he online?
He is not online, but he did email me earlier with his comments asking me to please read them. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I probably will not be here in time to speak this evening as my son has back to school night tonight. So I am sending in my comments to make sure they are heard. First of all, I would like to congratulate Lucy, Laura, and Myra on their new 4-year terms, as all 3 are running unopposed. I look forward to seeing you continue banning on a positive path, and thank you for your time and continued service to BUSD. Second of all, I would like to welcome back all of the teachers, staff, and students. I hope everyone had a nice break and look forward to another year of growth and banning. It really is nice to have stability in our BUSD leadership, district goals, and collaboration. I think it is a major factor in why we continue to grow in BUSD, and I am looking forward to seeing that continue this year. I do have some concerns, though. I am concerned about the number of certificated jobs we still have open. I am concerned about the workload of some of our SPED teachers at Nicolette. I am concerned about the 4-5 combo at Cabazon and the makeup of that class. And I am concerned that we still have not come to an agreement with the district on negotiations. I am confident that we will be able to come to a resolution to these concerns, but it is always better when we can be proactive and avoid concerns like these rather than be reactive and fix them after the fact.
Thank you. Item 3.4, CSEA comments. I would like to welcome CSEA President Jennifer Serrano.
Good evening. Jennifer Serrano, President of Banning Chapter 147 CSCA. I too would like to congratulate the board for their 4-year term. I'm looking forward to a positive movement forward. I was not able to be here for our back to school rally since I was in San Jose at CSCA's annual conference. I believe it was the 98th annual conference. But Mr. Davis did reach out to me and ask me, if I would like to say a few things, what our theme means to me, we are banning. So I would like to go ahead and do that now. It's kind of ironic that our theme is we are banning, since that was CSCA's last year. It was we are CSCA. So I was going to wear my shirt tonight, just to kind of tie into it and to let you know what that means to me. CSCA, we are banning as well. W- Somebody had made a comment, and I think it was Beverly Quinones, talking about what it meant to her. The same thing for all of us. Almost every single classified employee that works for Banning has grown up here, lives here, has roots, has ties. We are fully vested in Banning. We are banning. CSCA is banning. And I would like for you guys to remember that when you're out there in your journeys, to talk to these people, talk to your employees, talk to your classified employees one-on-one. I've extended the invitation numerous times to let's get together, put together something so that they feel like they're connected to the board and the cabinet. Hasn't happened yet. Again, I will extend that. You guys have my business cards, you have my email, you have my phone number. Let's do that. Going forward, like I said, we are banning. We want you to see us and hear us and take us seriously. We take our jobs very seriously. A lot of us will turn down promotions because we get connected to our school sites and our principals and our kids, and we feel like we have to stay for them. So a lot of people will hold back and stay and not promote just to be with their people. So think about that as you're out there. One of the other things that Mr. Davis wanted me to ask was like a challenge, come up with a challenge for admin and cabinet and a challenge for the year for the school board. So my challenge to admin and to cabinet is, when you're talking to people, be mindful of your tones, be mindful of what you say, and just be kind. We're your coworkers. We're not here to fight you or oppose you. Treat us as your coworkers. That's my challenge to admin and cabinet. And to the board, talk to your constituents. Get out there and speak to the voting members of Banning. Like I said, they live here. They have a vote, they have a voice, and be accountable to them. Listen to them, talk to them one-on-one. That's my challenge to the school board. One more thing I would like to say about us being banning is we had a crisis or incident, if you will, at Central. And I would like to recognize Mr. Rufus Connor Casadas for being there and helping to correct that situation. I don't think anybody has recognized him for what he has done in that situation. So I would like to see something put together for Rufus, because like him, he grew up in Banning. He has roots in Banning. His kids go to Banning. His grandkids will probably come to Banning. He is Banning, and what he did for our students proves how we feel about Banning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 4.1, superintendent's comments.
Let me see if I can do it. Here it is. Okay. There we go. So good evening. I don't think I'm going to be up here every board meeting, but kind of think about what I want to say. And I did look at the last meeting, and I have some work to do on myself and my visual expressions, what I do, but nevertheless, and I go a little long, so I'm going to have to time myself. So want to start with, yes, we are banning. We are. And I am extremely proud to be here and serve this community. This is a community where I live. I've lived for over 10 years. And everyone that I come in contact with regarding that, they take pride in knowing that we are banning. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of how our staff has taken to this phrase, as well as our students. So just as a reminder, we're here to ensure that we are preparing, inspiring, and educating students because we want our students to be responsible, respectful, and prepared. And when I see our students, I don't get to do that too often, but when I do, they're sharp, they're wise, they are respectful, they are responsible. And those who are not, working on that. And we're going to keep working on that to get them to be prepared to live in this world we live in. And as a reminder, 3 goals for this year. So everything we do should be aligned back to the goal. Academic achievement, safe environment, and how do we engage with the community and our parents? I'm going to talk just a little bit about that in this slide. So the first thing I want to talk about is that student achievement. When we did the superintendent's evaluation, that was a little over a month ago, I shared some preliminary data that we had about our test scores, as well as our graduation rate. And the information's been updated a little bit more, and it's better than it was when I shared with you. So it sounds like we did make growth in our graduation rate. So as soon as that information is compiled, we'll get that in the dashboard, and then will be released, and then Ed Services will provide a update to the board about how we're doing. And I'm proud of that we continue to make growth. And so I would just want to make that very clear. Growth is very different than we're at the top. So we're just doing it step by step, but we're going forward. And that comes from all of our staff working together. Number 2 deals with safety. And I'm going to show some pictures in just a second about we've taken safety very seriously. And I explained this at our welcome back, is the reason why we had it on a Friday is because that was voluntary for the staff members who weren't working that day. And we had a pretty good turnout for staff members who were not working. But the reason was it was an agreement that we were going to focus on safety. And one of the first days back of the 3, it was an all district training. Every single employee in the district would have training online for half of the day, and then Alice training, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So that goes back to our board priorities, ensuring that we're safe. And finally, in terms of two-way communication, is just want to bring up a sore subject from last year, which is aptitude. I was just texting a principal a little while ago, and she said, we're almost 100% with our parents and students with aptitude. So I know our teams have worked really hard of trying to work with our teachers, providing training, going to school sites, and then working with parents. So the goal is to bring that up to par where there's a direct communication between the teacher and the parent. So if you're a parent out there and you're listening and it's still not working, please contact your principal and we can set up additional trainings to make sure we get you the information that you need. So just a few pictures. The welcome back lunch and pep rally. So I just have to tell you, it was a lot that went into that. And I did share that it took months to prepare for that, including getting the food truck, the shirts. We still have staff coming in to get the shirts because they want to have their We Are Banning shirts. And again, it was a relatively good turnout. We know we're not going to have everyone here because people are traveling, they're away, things are coming up, but we had a really good turnout there. So I was really proud of that. And I was a little nervous because it's been a while since I've done like a pep rally, but it worked out. I do think, though, it went a little too long, so we'll work on that for the future. And in this picture, I asked the staff to work on, I wanted to have this moment, if you will, where we're talking about We're Banning, we're singing a song, and there was a video out. I don't know if we posted that, but it was about 33 seconds. And the digital arts teacher at Banning High School, Christian Nunez, filmed it, and it was like, you have to see it. And when I've put it out there in the space, I get so many comments about, wow, you have a school district that's together. And so it was just pretty powerful, and I'm proud of that moment, and I want to thank all of our staff for coming and our staff that worked really hard to make it happen. Next is just some images from our Alice training. So again, half of the day was in person, where we listened to some trainers that came from around the nation, and then there were some simulations in the classroom. In that upper left picture there, poor Mr. Pulsifer. He's just so eager and ready to volunteer, but they had him all like locked up there. Remember, you couldn't move, right? So the training was good. Then we went to the classroom. And one of the biggest takeaways for me personally was this whole notion of, in an event of danger, whether you're at school or home or in the community, it's really fight or flight. How do you get away when you can, when it's safe? And if you can't get away, it's not freezing, it's fighting, and how to do that. And we went through that process. So I was, that's a little bit of a different slant than I've had in the past, but I think it gives a person a little bit of empowerment, if you will, or a sense of confidence that you can disarm someone, not taking a bullet per se, but a strategic way to disarm people. So I was, that was a great turnout. And I want to thank Mr. Shilriff, and I know he had some help, but he really had a lot to go through to plan and prepare for that for all of our staff. So back to school, that was last Thursday, and I was able to get to almost every school the first day, but students are happy. People are happy to be back. That middle picture, they had that was at Himmerly, they had a red carpet and parents were coming in, they're filming. Now, no, the parents look happy. I don't know about all the students, but the parents look happy. They were happy, ready to go, and we had students that were happy. So it was a great day back. And really, after the morning hours, getting into the afternoon, it was as if school never stopped. It's just back to clockwork. With that being said, the final thing I want to share, and I mentioned this at the Welcome Back rally, is this phrase, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept, came to me several years ago. And this Lieutenant Morrissey, he's a lieutenant, I think, in Australia or New Zealand. But the bottom line is there was something that happened in the organization that just really, really went awry. So he really stepped up and spoke with all of the military folks to say, hey, we own the standard. So as we are walking past trash, or we're walking past people that make maybe inappropriate comments or have the wrong tone, or we should be saying something. We shouldn't just let that slide, because when we let that slide, that becomes the standard. Then it's acceptable. And so I kind of have been given this challenge to our school sites. And I have to tell you, in the past couple of days, and actually we had a conversation the other day, our school sites in terms of trash look much better, much, much better. And the goal is to have a space that's clean, that looks good. But here's the deal. That's not one person's job. That's not the custodian's job. That's everyone's job. So being in the classroom, it's been a long time for me, but when the students walked into my classroom, it was what it was. But when they left, it was cleaner than they walked in. And I didn't touch anything. It was because we give the responsibility to the people or the students that have that space. So why not start with our students? Why not start with each other? It's not everyone's responsibility to pick up after me. It should be myself to do that. And then how do we hold each other accountable? So I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our principals and our sites, because it looks much better. And I want to keep that getting better. As you can see on most of our school sites, and there's a presentation this evening, we've done a lot of work. We've done some paint, we've done some decals. It looks better, but we also want a clean and inviting space, because when we don't have that, what are we telling our students? What are we telling our parents? And so again, it is everyone's responsibility for the culture and reputation, everyone's responsibility. So with that, thank you, and we are banning.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Item 5, consent calendar.
The recommendation is to approve consent calendar agenda items 5.2 through 5.4 as provided. All matters listed under the consent calendar agenda are considered to be routine and enacted by one motion and vote. There is no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the Board of Trustees considers the motion, unless a member of the board or administrative staff requests that specific items be discussed and/or removed.
Do we have a motion and second to approve the consent calendar agenda as provided?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion from trustee Ruiz and a second from trustee Martinez Lara. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 6.1, school facilities presentation. I would like to invite Mr. Herrera and team to share tonight's presentation.
Good evening, President Trotman, Clerk Reese, distinguished board members, superintendent, members of the cabinet, extended cabinet, and the community that is joining us here in person and over any wavelength, if that's still a thing. And so today I do have the privilege of providing a school facilities update. This is part of our series of providing the board some updates on the various departments, not just on the operations side of the house, but also with the ed services of the house. So definitely looking forward to that as we continue on with the new year. And so first and foremost, I want to say just a special thank you to the ground staff, maintenance staff, custodians, and the operations and maintenance and operations department. And the facilities efforts have been a coordinated effort where also not only the school sites, but other departments such as in IT, safety, and educational services, as we continue to collaborate on how to improve our overall facilities. And so it was a very busy summer, probably the busiest yet, and definitely excited and so proud of the staff that came together to really get our facilities to the state they should be in. There's still a lot of room for growth in terms of just coordinating, making sure that we're planning things ahead, communicating, and that's part of the learning curve, and definitely looking forward to continuing on with the facilities updates as we continue. And so overall, the goal for the facilities department is to provide the best possible environment and facilities for something that has to be conducive for student learning. And really that's been the goal for the department. There've been a lot of resources allocated to our facilities that may be restricted in nature just for facilities, and been very strategic as to how we continue to work on our home, because we are batting. And with that, I'll go ahead and introduce Mr. Kenneth Page, Director of Facilities Transportation, to take us on through the updates. And before that, just friendly reminder of how we are here to prepare, inspire, and educate as part of our mission statement.
Thank you very much. President Troutman, board members, Superintendent Davis, Cabinet, and Banning family as a whole, thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of the projects that have been completed over the last couple of years. This presentation is going to be a lot of photos, a lot of me speaking. I've broken this down into categories because not everybody fully understands the different categories of facilities, and in those are some subcategories as well. So I'd like to start with category 1, program support. We support the educational services, child nutrition services, safety, and all the other departments throughout. As Mr. Herrera mentioned, our department's very small. It's myself and admin support, a secretary. We rely heavily on the support of these departments and support back to these departments as well. As you know, over the last several years, we've completed quite a bit of asphalt striping or asphalt and roof work. We have spent $3.5 million in roofing and over $3 million in asphalt work. We still need to complete roughly $4 million more of roofing repairs, which we'll be scheduling and hopefully being able to get to. But let's speak to the pictures here so you understand what I'm trying to relay here. You got these first two pictures in the up left-hand corner, which is the striping. These are, after doing the asphalt, we reached out, spoke to the educators or the administrators and found that what they really needed was more graphics on the ground to support their STEM, their educational process. So they came up, I showed them different graphics and they came up with all kinds of wonderful ideas and helped me get this stuff in place for them with their support. The lower right-hand corner is Hoffer. One of the things Hoffer needed was more basketball courts. Their courts, exterior courts were old, tired, beat up, so we replaced what's existing and added additional courts because that's a fun favorite of the students there as well. You have at the top lunch tables. We do quite a bit of support through nutritional service by providing interior and exterior lunch tables. As they grow and bring in new equipment, we provide support by adding new utilities, new circuits, but Mr. Pulsifer will speak to that a little bit more in his presentation shortly after. One of the ones we really partner with is safety, IT, and things of that nature, because as you know, that is one of our major concerns. So we partnered with security to help with the camera installation and support of that at Nicollet. And the window film that was installed at Banning High School, it allowed shatter resistance to add more safety to the students. But one of the projects that we partnered with IT was the Internet Protocol Public Announcement System that is now up and running throughout the district. Let's see if I get this right. Category 2, repairs and replacement. As we've said before, we partner with all the departments, maintenance and operations as well. In your upper left-hand corner is the asphalt that was replaced at Nicollet. Next to that is a picture of one of the roofing projects. As you can see, the center picture is maintenance and operations replacing siding at Central, so it could be painted and made whole again. The bottom right-hand corner is one of the big projects that maintenance helped us with, was getting all the portable ramps repaired throughout the district. This was a major safety concern when I first started. And I'm happy to report they've all been brought up and repaired to a good standard. Your center bottom picture addresses safety, gates and doors and things of that nature. That is Banning High School and the wrought iron that was put in front of the school. The first picture outlined in red shows the style of latching that was installed originally. It just bolted at the top. What we had to do was redesign that, put a mullion in so it latched in the center. And the reason being was there was a time when you could just come up and pull on those gates really hard, pop that gate open, and walk on the campus. Happy to report with this fix, that is no longer a possibility. Category 3, infrastructure. This is probably the one that sees the least, that people see the least. It's either up in the ceilings, in the walls, or in the ground. Oh, I'm sorry, I walked away from the mic. I apologize. It's in the ceilings, it's in the walls, it's in the ground. It's plumbing, electrical, networking, things of that nature, safety. The pictures represent that top right, left-hand corner. That was Hoffer's main sewer. It was completely plugged and the whole site was backed up. You can see from the picture in the center to the top, we had to wind up digging almost 15 feet in the ground to make that repair. Electrical circuits, some of the things we've done is we add electrical as programs needed. Maybe there's new technology coming in. Maybe there's new lighting that needs to be done. Another thing we have to think about when we're doing these projects, these asphalt projects and these roofing projects, we have to think about future infrastructure. And what that means is we have to plan 1 to 5 years ahead, because we don't want to invest this money in these new walls and in these new roofs and this new asphalt, just have to go cut it up and remove it a year or two later to run this stuff. And the pictures represent some of that work that was done at Nicollet, over by Central, so we could connect those portables back to the system. Main backflows there at Cabazon as well. The fourth category, remodels. This is the one that everybody likes. Everybody likes a new, fresh area. These pictures represent quite a bit that was accomplished. Those top two left-hand ones, that's where we actually partner also with the educational or athletic departments as well. What you see in that top picture is Banning High School's old equipment room. Working with Brandon Mason in the maintenance department, we came in and the whole area was remodeled. Walls were repaired, new flooring put in, new equipment brought in. And now that high school has a new state-of-the-art weight equipment room. It's beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to go see it, please do. The pictures below that is Central. We went in and with maintenance's help as well with facilities, We came in and painted the whole interior A building of the multipurpose room and the hallways and put in new flooring and spruced that whole area up to make it more appealing, to give it a better feel, provided new lunch tables in that area because they were so impacted with their multiple lunches and their students. The next pictures in that group of pictures shows room 203 at Nicolette. We needed to move the life skills class into that room. So we had to gut that room, completely remodel. We provided a kitchen area, a laundry area, a work area, and a teaching area so that teacher can provide and work with those students through life skills. And maintenance and operations was critical in making that happen. This is my funnest because this is the one that gets me the biggest pats on the backs and the wows, and everybody's smiling like that. These are the site beautifications that have been completed. As you can see, Himlin got a new mural and a new school name put up on top of it. Cabazon got a beautiful new dinosaur and new mural in front, along with window graphics on its multi-purpose room. Central's got its pillars painted so they stand out and they pop and you see them, they bring your attention to the school. And they also got these window graphics on their east side by their bus stop. This actually does a couple fold. Not only does it help beautify the school, but it cuts down on the solar glare that has been affecting the educational process in there and actually keeps those rooms a little cooler as well. The bottom right-hand corner is Nicolette. They've got their window graphics and it's really helped a lot, made that a lot beautiful school. I couldn't tell you how much Cammie was happy in the praise I got. And then you have Hoffer. That's the front of Hoffer. What a beautiful entrance now compared to what was just there a couple of weeks ago. Category 6, site beautification still in process. We're not done yet. We still have more to do. And these are the ones that are still being worked on right now. If you happen to drive by Hoffer the next day or two, you will see that we're in the process of painting that front building. That horseshoe and the horse will be painted in shortly. One thing to note though is if you look, if I get this laser right, if you look right there in your slideshow, that was a mural that the site was very concerned about protecting in place. So the painters worked with me very well to protect it, paint around it. And now we will work with a millist to come in, an artisan who can refresh that and make that look good for us. You have the center one, Hoffer staircase. It'll be repainted yellow and you will get the Hoffer mural there as well. Now I know that Nicolette got its window graphics, but it's still got quite a bit more to go. As you can see, and as long as I don't hit old Dr. Kazi Bush in the head, we're going to be painting the wainscot to the building there and all the doors green. A wainscot is like the yellow one here. It's a painter's term for a stripe at the bottom of a building between 3 to 4 feet tall. So that's going to get the whole front of the school. The library doors will be painted, the doors to the auditorium as well. It really will help that front of that school pop. And we're trying to get rid of that feel of that gray prison. Category 7, new construction. As you know, I'm walking away from the mic again. I apologize. I wish I had one on my lapel. Steve, make that happen. And then give me a mic I can drop when I'm done. Okay. New construction. It's the heart of every facilities director's job. In your left-hand corner is an area of what the school looked like prior to the construction. This picture diagram will walk you through the story of tearing the site apart, ripping up the parking lot, all the dust and dirt, all the noise we had to make. And I want to thank the Florida staff and administration for bearing with me. I understand all the heartache and the headaches I gave them, but I kept promising I will give you something beautiful in the end. You have the slab that the buildings sit on. The center pictures are some of the playground, play panels that went in because we needed to get some well-needed shade there for the little ones. You have a picture, I love the one where they were craning the picture or the building into place and all my contractors are underneath it with their hard hats and I'm just waiting to whack-a-mole with it. As you can see in the right-hand corner, the bottom two, that's what our buildings look like. They look stunning. New beautiful sod put in place. But what was really incredible about this job and throughout my career, from conception to planning to install was 16 months, a little shy of 16 months. That's incredible. It really is. Typically, just design and to get to the point where you can go to bid is usually a year and a half. So I was really impressed with what Mr. Herrera put up and the pitch he gave me so we can knock it out of the park as a team, and everybody that assisted with that. We were 95% done, so on opening day, we could have the kids in the brand-new classroom. I know the staff was happy. Yes, there's little things we still need to finish, little areas we need to clean up. And the wonderful thing I get to report to you tonight is here in the real near future, we'll be putting in a new playground along with the shade structure. And at that, this is section 8, and I'll turn this back over to Mr. Herder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Page. And so the last category of projects is modernization. And the reality is that there hasn't been true modernization in Banning since about 2015. That is almost 20 years ago. And just wanted to bring back the attention to the bond initiative identified as Measure O that the board approved to be on the ballot for November 5th, 2024, that could yield the district up to $74 million in facilities. In addition to that, on the right-hand side, you'll see Assembly Bill 247, which is now known as Proposition 2, that is going to potentially yield about $8.5 billion to school districts like Banning. Of course, that is a whole process of applying for those dollars, but the good news, if approved, the district would be able to leverage the state dollars with our local bond dollars to really maximize what we're doing with our facilities moving forward. And so just wanted to bring it all together and recap that there's a lot of resources that are being spent on facilities roughly in the last 3 years since July of 2021. Dollars that are earmarked for capital facilities project. We spend about $20 million. And with that, we still do need a lot more funding for our facilities as we continue to improve the environments for our students. And so with that, I'll go ahead and open up the platform for questions.
I have a question. And it's more in logistics or an explanation. You're saying that, that the leveraging, the state bond Prop 2 with Bond O, for the $74 million. Can you kind of explain, let's say we don't get the bond, the 74 million, where does the Proposition 2, the $10 billion come in and the 8.5 billion for TK, TK to 12. Can you explain that, please?
Absolutely. That's a really great question because there are certain mechanics within the state facilities funding requirements. And so one thing I do want to let the board know is that we are already getting in line and submitting applications to seek for these dollars based on some of our facilities needs. Typically, there is a district match requirement once with some of these dollars that are coming from the state. It might be 40%. In the case of TK, it was 50%. And there's other mechanics again within the proposition, and in this case, the law, that allows us to minimize how much is required. But there is a requirement usually when we go out to the state asking for facilities dollars. And so in the absence of the local measure bond O, then we would then have to look at our general fund, look at potentially some of the other capital facilities funding that we're receiving to be able to meet that district match. So the best case scenario for Banning is to have both bond measure O approved and also Proposition 2 so that those 74 millions could then be stretched out even more and bring more dollars for facilities to Banning.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that? So this, what is this? Proposition 2. Even if that passes, and let's say Measure O passes, there are districts that have put in paperwork years ago and there's been no funding. So there's several projects that have been, if you will, approved, but there's no money. The money is going to come from that first. So I just want to say this and be very clear to our community and the board. There is no guarantee, even if we put in paperwork now, that we'll receive any of that Proposition 2 money if passes. So that's why it's imperative that we look at Measure O, because Measure O is going to directly fund projects that we have. So I just want to make that clear. There is no, oh, here's this Proposition 2, we're going to get XYZ. There's no guarantee for that because there's been districts in line for a long time.
Thank you for explaining that.
That's absolutely correct, and thank you for the clarification, Mr. Davis. There is a huge need across the state for facilities dollars for school districts. And like Mr. Davis mentioned, there are many districts that have submitted applications a long, long time ago. And at the state level, there is zero resources right now, and that's why this bond made it, this Proposition 2 made it to the ballot.
Ask just one more question, please. Have we submitted anything for those funds?
We
In the
are
past?
working through the process of submitting applications. So we're working first through identifying the projects because it does require a bit of a lot of back work to make sure that we're ready to submit those applications. But banning hasn't in the past really leveraged and or maximized the access to these state dollars, and we're looking to change that moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
I just hope that we do get some money from Proposition 2. That would be awesome for our district and our kiddos. And then also our bond measure O. Hopefully, we are able to make so much needed change for our district. So I just wanted to state that. And then also, I loved all the before and after pictures. It made my heart happy. I know that our kids see it. I know the other day we drove by was it on Nicolette Street, and my daughter's like, "Oh, mommy, look, that's new. We didn't have that." And so it's exciting. And then I was looking at it and I was like, I told my husband, I was just like, "Look, even the school bus says Banning Unified on it." And I was like, "That's a cute detail." So these things, they're meaningful and they are impactful, and I can't wait to see what else we do throughout our district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. I was over at Central for the first 2 days of school, and I noticed that some of the doorstops are missing over there. Specifically like in the TK kindergarten area, the doorstops. And so when the doors close, I'm concerned for their little fingers.
Yes,
they getting
that is correct.
resolved?
We've had to start removing them through the district. As you know, we have started our fire inspections. We had our first round last year. They're coming up again in December. That is a fire code. We cannot install door stops on any fire-rated door. So there, we are looking at measures of what can be done, but the district has been in violation of that. We do need to correct that. It's a situation district-wide.
So we are looking at an alternative for that, because I noticed it and I was concerned, and then a teacher brought it up to my attention. She was like, "And their little fingers," and I was like, "I know."
Correct. Just, I want to make the board aware, the alternative is a very expensive one that will require upgrading our fire alarm control panels and adding magnetic door holders to all of those doors. So that's an expensive adventure. That's why one of the reasons that the funding is so important to us. We've been able to do quite a bit with the limited funding we have, but as Mr. Davis spoke to, what's really going to help us is that money to be able to fix up our facilities.
And then I just want to echo Mrs. Anguiano's comment. Kudos to all the hard work that everyone did over the summer. When my kiddos and I drove by Central before school started, I let out a huge scream from excitement when I saw the windows. And then my kids were like, "Oh my God, how beautiful." And my little TKer, my 4-year-old, she immediately noticed how we had redone that front piece of Central and how it popped. So thank you so much to everyone that was working really hard in this very hot weather during the summer for
Thank
all
you.
of our kiddos.
Thank you for the recognition. If you see our maintenance workers, our operations, our custodians, please say thank you to them. Because as I said, facilities is an extremely small department. We rely heavy on Steve and his department, Joe Scherlifer, Mr. Ingrassi and his crew, and even Mr. Pulsifer and his. So many thanks to them as well.
So I'd also like to repeat the sentiment and say thank you as well, because I know we have an appointment coming up to see some of these in person, but I know some parents don't get to see it. But I mean, being able to see on here, I
Mhm.
think it was great. So parents can see the new things that their kids have access to. I mean, the new weight room at the high school, that was excellent. You know, it's a good improvement. And I think parents need to see that their kids are taken care of. that we're doing our best to make sure they get the best education they can. And I think this is a great start.
Well, thank you. And our plan is to get some of this posted out on our website as well. And one of the reasons we did concentrate on what I call the curb appeal of the sites is because not only do most of our parents never walk on campus, but most of our constituents don't. 85% of the people who live in Banning never walk on our campus. But let's face it, our campus is the cornerstone of the city. We set the bar and the pride for the rest of the city. If you have beautiful schools and good schools, the rest of the city raises to it.
And I think it's good timing too, because with back to school night around the corner for some schools, then this is a good opportunity for parents to see the updates that have been done. So good job.
Thank you very much.
I know this isn't part of that. I actually was going to make a comment about this whole thing when in comments, but I was noticing, like Mr. Davis was saying, the cleanliness, the taking the pride to clean up the weeds. I know it's been very hot, but I noticed around the district office, and it really looks like we care, and it's very much noticed and appreciated.
Thank you.
And I'm going to take the opportunity to accentuate this point. So if you can go back in the slides a little bit,
End of the slides. Yes, sir.
keep going. Okay, right there. So I'm going to make a statement and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. So these type of projects, when we're talking about HVAC, when we're talking about digging big holes in the ground, things that you don't necessarily see, is it fair to say that these type of projects are extremely expensive?
Extensive and important.
Expensive.
Expensive, yes, very expensive and very important because these are the backbones that support the rest of our buildings, facilities, and our programs. They're extremely expensive.
Okay, so the last question I have is, if I were to ask you in terms of remodels and projects like this, because we've had conversations about restrooms, additional restrooms. I mean, there's a variety of things, the plumbing, all of those things. If I ask you, how long is the list right now for these type of items that need to be done and brought up to par, what would you say?
I have close to over 400 on my list.
And this is the reason why I'm asking.
And let me clarify, that's what I have been able to compile and put. I know I could double that list easily.
And the reason I'm asking is because when people see the things that you're seeing, oh, the district has money. So again, I just want to go back, and I haven't been here for a very long time, but there's a portion of this district and facilities that have been neglected for years. Now, all of you live somewhere, and you know what happens when you neglect a space. It then is not a repair, it's a replacement. And most of you know those things cost a lot of money. And so just speaking in a factual term, that's why that's why the bond was brought to the board, so that way we can improve our spaces to make them top notch, where people want to come, where our students want to come, and we create a spectacular learning environment. So I wanted to take that opportunity to share that.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you for questions.
Well, thank you very much for this chance to present. I don't often get to showcase the work that our department does, or the Department of Maintenance and Operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 6.2, Child Nutrition Services Presentation. I would like to invite Mr. Pulsifer to share tonight's presentation.
Good evening again, Board. Today, I am here for a second time to now present a update on the Child Nutritional Services Program. And so as you notice in the previous slide or previous deck, it was just a facilities update. However, Mr. Pulsifer has a certain seasoning to his taste, right? And so he is coining this presentation today as What's Cooking with Child Nutritional Services? A taste of everything. And again, always want to start with a special thank you to the staff in nutritional services. They are they are the ones that keep our students healthy and fed and ready for school every day. And if I may just share a quick story here, and I remember being in about fourth grade, because at that point you can volunteer in the cafeteria. That was one of my favorite things to do, and it really just helped me develop that affinity and our appreciation for the staff that is really wanting to do what's best by students. Also, I had an opportunity to spend the first 3 days of school over at Central Elementary, and I actually was walking in for something else right during lunchtime to drop off some bus tags. And as I'm kind of taking a quick look over, I just see the chaos in that multi-purpose room in terms of the largest school in terms of elementary school students, the smallest multi-purpose room without a kitchen. And so somehow, some way, I ended up putting on my banana and I went into action. And it was 3 days that really did show me a lot of how hard our staff works and it just really wanting to go above and beyond to make sure that students are fed. They are responsible, picking up the trash and then making their way outside. So definitely appreciate it for the staff there. Quick shout out here to Maria Gloria and Teresa there, the custodian at Central Elementary. They do have a tough job and really different perspective in terms of how we can continue to improve our facilities to hopefully get them a better space. And so with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Pulsifer.
All right, thank you very much. And good evening, President Troutman, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Davis. Thank you all for having me here tonight. And I am excited to be presenting to you. Before I start though, I'm grateful that Mr. Herrera put on his bandana. It's much more hip than the hairnet. So I'm glad that he was able to do it with style. Okay, so getting started here, I want to jump into summer actually. So we just finished summer, and summer is one of our favorite times because we have the seamless summer option. And so what this is, it's a nutrition program that allows us to feed kids all summer long. And it's called Seamless Summer because from the time that school ends last year to the time that school begins this year, we can feed kids that entire time. Okay, so our food service really is seamless. We have been able to do this most summers, but what's particularly awesome about this summer and actually the last 2 summers before, we have had 0 gap in service. Okay, so from the time that school got out, we began immediately and went all the way up until the time that school started. So that was really a huge accomplishment. And I really have to give kudos to my staff because their willingness to go out there and work during the summer was huge. Okay, especially the ones at the parks. Our summer school people were fantastic as well. I really appreciate the people who stepped up and did summer school, led by some of our leads, Sherry Dawson and Betty Martinez at the summer school sites. They did a fantastic job with their teams, but particularly our staff that worked the parks in the summer. They didn't have any time off, okay? And so I especially appreciate all that they did. There were staffing issues at times, and so a big shout out to my lead Brenda, who was the one who kind of headed up the park program, and everybody who worked there was really amazing. So I can't say enough about how great of a job that they did. And as I visited the parks, which I enjoy doing because it's something different, you're out in nature. You see this beautiful picture of this park. This is Ripley Air Park. So they're parked right underneath a big shade tree. And so we started serving at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's still fairly cool. I mean, we had some hot days in there. I know that. But it's refreshing to be out there. And there are a lot of families that walk up to the park to get their meals. And so being able to serve the community in that way was huge. So I'm grateful for them and all that they were able to contribute to this program. Some other things to note about the Seamless Summer Program. This is the first year ever that California approved a approved us to be able to send meals home with families. Aside from COVID, we did that whole COVID thing, but this year for rural communities, we were able to send meals home for the meals that we weren't serving actively at. And so particularly in Cabazon is where were able to take advantage of this. So we were there serving at the Cabazon Library from Monday through Friday. Okay, and then Friday we were sending families home with a breakfast and a lunch for both Saturday and Sunday. And so that was able to even more support our community out there than we have previously been able to. So that was a huge impact there. Some other things that we did during the summer was, well, we like feeding people. Okay, so we wanna gather all the groups. All right, so we got Boys and Girls Club that we were able to feed. After summer school ended, we did the Boys and Girls Club summer camp. We did band camp at Banning High School, and anytime that we're able to support a group, we want to feed those kids because we want to have a positive impact on them. Okay, so some of the other things that we are constantly working on is menu upgrades. All right. Now this gets tricky at times because menu upgrades are a very fine balance between demand and nutrition. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So like the dietitian in me, okay, I would love to just like make everybody like a nice quinoa bowl or like a good green broccoli salad or like some grilled asparagus. You think our kids are gonna like that? Oh, I would love it if they liked that, but no, but no, they're not into that. They're into chicken nuggets, okay? And so a little disclaimer here. I know chicken nuggets are processed, okay, and we don't like that word, processed. All right. In any health community, they shun the word processed. All right. However, we try to make the best of any situation, and kids like chicken nuggets. They demand chicken nuggets. They want chicken nuggets. So, what are we going to give them? Well, we give them nutrition. We give them nuggets that meet the nutritional requirements. So they're breaded with whole grain, and they meet sodium requirements, they meet saturated fat requirements, which are different than the Dino Nuggets you buy at the grocery store. No offense, Dino Nuggets, but they're slightly different here. And then we'll do something like serve them with mashed potatoes. And in case you didn't know, in case you've never served mashed potatoes with your nuggets to your kids, they like dipping them. All right, and to dip nuggets in mashed potatoes, you guys look like you're surprised. They like dipping them in mashed potatoes. It goes good together. All right, kind of like a home style bowl from KFC or something. Like it's pretty good. All right. So now you're adding in a vegetable. It's a starchy vegetable, yeah, but mashed potatoes are going to be better than fries, okay, or something that's more processed even then. So anyway, if you take a look at the picture that I've got on the screen here, this is a beautiful plate that actually our lead at Cabazon, Rene Torres, he plated this up and took this picture, and this was our Halloween meal this last year. And so he's got the bat nuggets up there. We've got the pumpkin custard. Okay, we're serving a fuyu persimmon. All right, in case you didn't recognize what that was, it looks like a little tiny pumpkin, so appropriate for Halloween. A salad and a chocolate milk. So true, the kids are getting some processed stuff, but they're also getting some fresh stuff. They're getting exposed to new things. They're seeing different things on their plate, and they're having a choice. You see the salad bar behind them. So you see the bins filled with the persimmons there. There's also other fruits and vegetables for them to choose from. So that's what kind of makes it fun, and it encourages them to get out there and try something. Now, next on the list there, you'll see slushies. Okay. Now, don't jump out of your seats. These are not 7-Eleven Slurpees. Okay. These are 100% fruit juice slushies with no added dyes, no added sugars, no added flavors, any of that. And we actually serve these slushies at Nicollet Middle. And the reason that we do this is because it counts as a fruit. Okay. We serve only a 4-ounce portion because we don't want to overload kids on unsweetened beverages, which sugar. So we serve a small serving, but it brings them into the cafeteria. When we first got these slushy machines, then our numbers for lunch went up at Nicollet Middle. And the awesome thing about that is that sure, you go into the cafeteria because you want a slushy, but you end up getting a meal that is nutritious and hopefully is going to fuel you for the rest of the day. And even if you don't necessarily eat all of your meal, you're getting that exposure. And when you go to the cafeteria through the line and you see those things up there, it's just like all of us. When we see something over and over again, then we're going to be more inclined to take it at some point later in time. So the slushies bring them into the cafeteria, and they are also, healthier than a lot of the alternatives.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Um, what what happens to the food that is not eaten?
It
extra.
depends. So anything that's cold, we can keep it at temp and just put it in the fridge and we can save it. Anything that is requiring to be held hot, we have to discard of.
Are students allowed to go up and get seconds if they want a second serving?
No, as part of the regulations in the school nutrition program, we would have to charge for a second meal. However, any kid who puts any of their food in the share bin at the schools, those are free for any of them to come back and take a second portion of.
Okay, so what goes in the shared bin?
Anything that a kid doesn't want. So if you just went through because you wanted a milk and you didn't want the rest of your meal, you could put everything else in the share bin.
Thank you.
I love on the slide that you say that staff take a pride in their work. So I know you love nutrition and I know you're out there. One of the questions I do have is there a process for ensuring that meals are fully cooked or fresh, or how do you measure or guide that?
Everything that's produced in the kitchen has a production sheet, and so these production sheets require temperature documentation. So every time a food is cooked, then the temp is recorded, and they all know the minimum requirements for each food that is cooked. And anything that's being transported, so for example, Florida Street, Discovery Center, and Central Elementary, since they don't have kitchens, their food is prepped at a different site and a transport sheet is sent as well. And so that transport sheet shows the temps during the transport, and it's completed at the site that the food is received at. Oh, so yeah, anything with an expiration date is discarded of, or if we're nearing an expiration date and we're unable to utilize it, then we will sometimes donate it to Carol's Kitchen. And that happens on occasion when we're coming up on like longer breaks. So for example, like Christmas break, if we're coming up on it and we have stuff that we can't utilize, then sometimes we'll donate it, but we try to repurpose it within our district as much as possible.
I have a real quick question.
Yes.
I noticed that you have chocolate milk here, which is yummy, but do you have any nutritional guidelines on fat-free milk? Because I know that children's growth is, they oftentimes utilize their fat and to the process of fat-free. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a different meal patterns for age groups. So we don't, if we were serving infants, like for example, other preschools that that serve the ages under what Florida Street currently serves, they require whole milk. So I believe that it's up I believe that it's up to age 2, they serve whole milk, and then after that is when we have to go down to 1%. So for all of our school age kids from Florida Street all the way up till grade 12, what the requirement is that we can serve 1% plain milk, but any flavored milk is required to be non-fat.
Hmm, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I just thought of a random question. Do we ever serve like organic foods? You know how in the grocery store they have the organic section and the not
Yeah,
organic?
yeah, yeah, we do. Not um, not always. So a lot of our produce actually comes from the Department of Defense, and so we get a lot of our produce through that program. It's essentially um, a commodity item that we are able to receive based on the allocation that a dollar value that we get every year. So a portion of that can be organic, but also we do sometimes order organic produce for like our fresh fruit and vegetable program, which I'll be getting into on an upcoming slide. Uh, so typically, ordering organic limits the amount that we can get. And so it's not very often that we go organic produce, but it is available and occasionally we do get into it. Okay, additional projects that we're working on is emergency supply of foods. And so currently in the warehouse, we have some shelf-stable products that would probably feed the district for about a day. We're trying to get that a little bit more organized so that it's rotated out regularly, utilized, and replenished, as well as having recipes to accompany those items. Because sure, you could live off a can of corn, but wouldn't it be better to have like a corn salad or some flavor in there, right? You don't want just a can of plain beans, right? So anyway, during an emergency, we want to be happy, okay, and have good tasting food. We so there's more that can be planned for this emergency supply of food that we have. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, refine the process for food allergies. So this is up here is a picture of Maria, who is our nutrition specialist, and Michelle, who is one of our LVNs. And so we're collaborating together to make sure that any allergy that comes into the district is properly documented and that we're able to provide appropriate foods for that student as soon as possible. Scratch cooking is a huge initiative, and this comes down to food quality. We want to serve the best quality foods, and so the fresher, the better. We're actually currently serving about 40% of our entrees from breakfast and lunch that are fresh or that are scratch cooked or semi-scratch cooked. And so I have up here just a few examples of some of our successes. Um, most of our kitchens are baking fresh baked goods in the morning for breakfast, muffins, scones, crumble cake. Then for lunch, I've got a few pictures up here of some tasty items that I thought would be maybe good to share. There on the bottom left is a beef picadillo. And I love this one. When they cook this in the kitchen, the NPR smells so good. Okay. So just an FYI. Our middle picture there, this is Leticia. She's our cook at Coombs, and she's displaying actually two entrees that she made today. One is the Stallion Burger, which is like a Western burger with like barbecue sauce. And then the other is a hand-wrapped carnitas burrito. So I had her plate that up for me so I could take a good little picture. But both of those are very good items.
So she just cooked them for the purpose of the picture, or
No,
is
no,
this what the kiddos ate today?
that's what they ate today.
Okay.
Yeah. So at Coombs, they're the Stallions, so it's called the Stallion Burger. If you ask somebody who's at Banning High, it's the Bronco Burger.
So I was gonna ask, how do you decide which site gets what? Because I have heard in the past that like the high school gives Bronco burgers and sometimes they make pozole and only the high school gets it, but not Nicollet or the elementaries.
Right. So for the secondary schools, they have mostly the same menu, but not exactly the same. So when kids graduate or promote from Nicollet to Banning High, we want them to have something to be, you know, a little bit excited about, yeah, a little something. Okay. So, so there's that component. Also, it has to do with the serving setup, equipment setup. At Banning High, you know, they just have the serving windows versus at Nicollet, they've got like a speed line, so they could kind of go through in a little bit different of a manner. So there's a lot of dynamics that go into what menu items work and which don't at a school. And so that's kind of how we choose. Yeah.
If I may just add, I know that our kids notice because the transition from elementary to middle school, um, my son takes his own lunch because he doesn't like the cafeteria food in elementary. But at Nicolay, he's like, "Mommy, they make burritos there. They have this, they have that," and so he's excited to see that difference in the plates and offerings. So I think that's really really good for our kids to
Oh, awesome.
get excited and have that opportunity to try it.
Okay, thank you. That's great feedback. We appreciate hearing that. Next one, fresh fruit and veggie program. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but this is super cool. All right. Uh, this is just a program that is allows us to serve a fresh fruit or vegetable separately from breakfast and lunch. We serve it usually at recess or between those meals. And in the bottom left corner there, you see two of our staff at Hammerling Elementary. They're serving cotton candy grapes. No, no, I didn't. If you have never tried them, they're amazing. Okay. And this picture's from last year actually, but we just happen to be serving them tomorrow. Tomorrow's our first day of fresh fruit and veggie. So if you find yourself at an elementary school, stop by the cafeteria and say, "Hey, can I get a sample of that?" And they'll hook you up.
They're delicious.
I like how you have all types of reactions here. You have one smiling and one with a not
Yes.
so good look on his face.
Yes. I'm glad that you pointed that out because that day we were trying sweet peppers and they were very nervous. At first, they thought they were chili peppers. They thought we were gonna give them spicy hot peppers. And so once we explained that, then they were more willing to try, but a little bit hesitant. And you could see this one boy on the right closed his eyes to get through the first bite. This girl in the front, she wanted to try it, and she got through it. Um, and some of the kids actually were super into it. And this is very cool to see because it's a vegetable. Okay. It's a very fresh vegetable. And and when they try it and they like it, some of them were coming back for more. Some of them wanted to try every color actually. And so that's a that's a really cool fun thing to see. It's really encouraging to see kids interested in doing that. And the kids also hype each other up. So notice some of these other things on here, like the rambutan and the Kiwano melon, they look pretty crazy. All right. And so uh, at first, you're not always inclined to try something like that. But if your friends are doing it, then it kind of turns into a fun little thing. Kitchen gray upgrades. So most of our kitchen upgrades have been equipment related. There's been the Nicollet cafeteria was remodeled a few years ago, and all these upgrades have been done with grant money. And so we've got some equipment grants that we're currently phasing out all of our obsolete equipment, things that are nearing end of life, and replacing it with new stuff. We've replaced a whole lot of stuff, and so I think that we should be pretty good on equipment, which is comforting because it's horrible when a big freezer goes down on a weekend and we need to figure out a way to save all that food. Upcoming projects. All right, so I wanted to have fun with this slide. All right, because you could see on there that the first bullet point is upgrading the HVAC system. So this morning I went down to Coombs and I recruited two of my kitchen workers, and they volunteered to be my models for this presentation. And what they're doing here is they're having fun with it, with what we're calling our current HVAC system. So you could see that they're working hard, lifting heavy bags of food, and then they have to stand in front of the mister fan. There's only water right now, but you can also put ice, and they do have ice machines. So that this was uh, just to be a silly representation, but we all had fun with it. And then you could see at the end, after they've cooled down, they're regenerated, they're feeling good and happy again and having fun. So what this is demonstrating is that once we upgrade our AC system at Coombs and also at Banning High, then that'll be a huge improvement. And they're not using Mr. Fans right now. They've got swamp coolers, but swamp coolers can make it very humid in there, and it's not ideal. So better than a Mr. Fan, but not as good AC will be. And so we are making that upgrade this year, and we've got the grant funds to move forward with that. So that's going to be fantastic for them. One more thing here is that we have a new maintenance worker who we recently hired, and he has extensive experience in appliance repair. So we're very grateful for that. He's also got experience with other maintenance related tasks such as plumbing, drywall, flooring, a big variety of things that he can do. And he's already gotten his feet wet and jumped into some big projects that we've been needing to be done. So we are expecting great things there. And last thing on this slide is we're also very hopeful for that bond Measure O to pass, because that will give us the funding that we need for both Central Elementary and Flores Street Discovery Center to get the kitchens that they need. Getting them kitchens will help them better prepare fresh food. They'll be able to prepare in batches. The food won't need to be held as long, and it'll really help the quality of food service that we can provide for those schools. This is my last slide. So looking further ahead, the overall goal is to feed more students. And so we're constantly looking for new ideas to reach all of our students. So that involves recipe development, scratch cooking, marketing. We want to make kids aware of what we're serving in the kitchen so that they want to come participate in our meal program. Another thing that we're doing is a leadership professional development program with our leads at each kitchen. And so this picture that's on here is our back to school meeting, and they're receiving a training that went over very, very well. It was all about the way that we work together as a team, the way that we communicate and promote positive interactions amongst ourselves, other departments, the customers that we're serving. And it really sunk in, and we're going to be doing this type of leadership training throughout the school year. So I'm expecting great things from all of our food service workers. Last thing that I have is our catering program. So we're working on developing that a little bit more, and we were able to provide some stuff for the Banning High graduation last year, and that seemed to go over well. But what I'm really excited about catering is that it gives our ladies in the kitchen and our lunch guy in the kitchen also the opportunity to show off their talents. Okay, we have some people who could really cook. Okay, so you may have seen some stuff from the kitchen, but I've seen some stuff that's not on the menus that they've made, and it's amazing. Okay, so I'm really excited for them to be able to show off what they can do in catering opportunities that aren't just related to what we serve for every day for breakfast and lunch. So thank you for having me. And does anybody have any questions?
Really quick question. Do we have any student surveys as far as what's popular for students? Do we ever do that?
Yeah, we do. So we do plate waste studies occasionally throughout the year, as well as taste tests. And also, I do sometimes have our nutrition staff team in the office make posters with QR code surveys that we post up in the kitchen windows. And so students can go to that Google Form survey through the QR code and give their feedback on whatever items that they liked or didn't like.
Do you get much participation with that?
Usually only when we're promoting something. So not on a regular basis, but when we're trying something new, then a lot of kids do speak up, more particularly at the high school.
So
Yeah.
they would use their phone. They would need a phone, or can they use their Chromebook?
So I was gonna make the comment that principals are cracking down on the electronics. So like
Right.
Dr. Thomas isn't allowing AirPods or smartwatches, phones.
Mm,
That would be
yeah,
a
that's
little
true.
hard to get to.
So I
the
guess in the
kids,
future, we'll have
like-
to just do maybe like a bit.ly. We'll
Yeah,
do a short
link.
link that they could easily go to
Yeah.
so that they don't have to scan. Because I've tried it with the Chromebook, and the Chromebooks, I think, only have a person-facing camera, so you'd have to go like, yeah, I don't think that would work.
Yeah, not everyone has a phone, surprisingly.
Right.
And you might get more participation the other way since they are cracking down on the use of phones during
Mhm.
school hours.
Yeah, good thinking.
And is there any kind of program for, like you mentioned that your, the Banning High School does the catering? Is there any kind of program that we have, Dr. Bush, that students could get involved in as an elective, possibly, to help? Uh, Because I know that catering is very expensive, and I mean, it's costly, and kids
Right.
might really enjoy that.
Yes, that is absolutely something we can explore in terms of at some point offering pathways or that particular industry
For high
sector
school for
where
electives
students,
in the
yes,
later
yes.
upper grades? Okay, thank you. And also one more question. Does your new maintenance guy do stuff on the weekends for other
Hmm.
people?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'd have to ask him on that one. All right.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 7.1, public hearing, sufficiency of standard aligned textbooks and instructional materials. The Board of Trustees will now conduct a public hearing on the sufficiency of standards aligned textbooks and instructional materials. Now is the time and place for the hearing. The hearing is now open. The time is 9:18 p.m. Were there any public comments received regarding this item?
No comments were received.
Is there anyone? Yeah, I'm getting to that. Is there anyone here now that wants to make a comment? You may come forward.
I apologize. I didn't know I had to make submit a form for the open. As I was looking at because from what my understanding was that we have sufficient books and that none are going to be purchased this year and that there's books for all the students. But as I was looking at the list on the agenda, it shows that some of our books are about 10 years old. And I was wondering if those are still up to standards for our teaching for our kids. Also, some of the questions I have and concerns is, are these all physical books? Are these digital books? And if they're digital, are we spending yearly on a licensing fee that we have to pay for every year? And is that costing our district more money than it would to be purchased physical books? So those were some of the concerns and questions that I had regarding our books for our kids.
So this is just the public
Yeah,
comment part.
Yeah,
Chair,
no, I
and-
know.
And when we get to the item, if Dr. Bush or someone else knows, they can answer it. If not, we can
Yeah.
work on getting that response.
Another, I had something else and I forgot, I'm sorry. Oh yes, another question that I had was, for something to think about is, how long does it take to buy books? So if it's, do they purchase them every 10 years? Is it purchased every 15 years, 20 years? And something to take into consideration as they approve this is, how long is the process for when one book is up to say, hey, we need to buy new books? So it's concerns as a parent.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? No. At this time, the hearing is now closed. The time is 9:20 p.m. Item 7.2, resolution number 25-007, sufficiency of standards aligned textbooks and instructional materials.
This item is for the board to adopt resolution number 25-007, sufficiency of standards aligned textbooks and instructional materials as provided.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 7.2?
I move.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? Dr. Kazi Bush, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Good evening, President Troutman, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Davis, and Cabinet. Just to address some of the questions, which are excellent questions. Every about 7 to 10 years or so, and sometimes that window widens or varies, the state does publish a list of instructional materials. Usually vendors, meaning book companies, will submit their materials to the Instructional Quality Commission. They will make a recommendation of a set number of titles for which they will recommend to the State Board of Education. State Board of Education will say, oh, we're going to select these items, and then make those available for districts to adopt. As an example, if you've looked through and you saw many of the titles, some of them are from 2014, some may be from other years. Our next adoption coming up is actually for mathematics. And just as an example, the state had a delay with the framework. And so once the framework was revised, at this moment, just as an example, they are preparing a list of materials to recommend. And so this time next year, what will likely happen is that the State Board of Education will say, oh, we've got these lists of titles that we recommend, that districts are then able to make a selection from and go through a whole textbook adoption process. One of the other questions had to do with, is it like, where are we in terms of digital materials versus hard copies? Most of the adoptions we have right now, there's a combination of sorts where students, for example, with English language arts at the middle school for Study Sync, they can access some of those materials online and also maybe have a hard copy as well too. So it's a mixed bag. What is going to be interesting for the future is to see with these next upcoming adoptions, how those materials may look, because it would be a lot less expensive to have materials that are all digital, but that will also put more of a strain, if you will, on making sure we have functioning and working devices. So there's always a kind of a give and take. You may pay less for the hard copies, but then you gotta make sure Mr. Barriga is working 24 hours a day to have all of our devices working. And I think there's another question, how long does it take to process? So that's the part that we sort of don't have control over. We wait for those lists of materials from the State Board of Education. And once that happens, we go through what is called a whole textbook adoption process, where we have a formal group of individuals, of teachers. If it's, for example, let's just say 7th grade English, in all likelihood, we would want teachers who teach English. If it's the elementary level, We still may have a mixture of teachers because they're multiple subject. And that process typically begins in the fall. They will actually look at the various publishers, and we may say, this group of teachers, you're gonna pilot book X on math. This group of teachers are gonna pilot book B on math. And for about 6 to 8 weeks, they will literally pilot those materials with students in the classroom. We'll bring that committee back together again, get their feedback, and we follow a process where teachers essentially the group gives their feedback on those materials. And then we make a recommendation as a committee, and then those materials are put on display for a designated amount of time for the public to be able to review. It varies in terms of sometimes maybe we can pilot late fall into the winter or spring. However, the most important piece is when that selection is made, then there's a formal recommendation to the Board of Education. And so I tried to squeeze a lot in, but hopefully it just kind of gave you a general sense of that process. So it is actually about a year's process for us. And so when we start that process, which will probably be for math next fall, it will probably be the following fall that we actually have those materials in hand, because the other component has to do with the actual receipt of those materials, which would need to be within that same calendar year fiscally. And so it's a pretty extensive process.
If I may start. Okay, thank you. Um, who keeps track of the contracts that are going to expire? So we don't have any overlap, no gaps where our students don't have access to textbooks, or they only have the old textbooks that are, I don't want to say
Yes.
irrelevant, but
Understood.
thank you.
And that is our job, because just as an example, we have 3 schools that have been selected for Williams. Part of one of the major components of Williams is to look for, to make sure that students have adequate instructional materials. And so that is why we have to publish on our SARCs on an annual basis, the materials we have and the actual year of adoption. Our last major adoption was actually at the high school level for English language and arts, which was Study Sync. And that was pretty significant because the materials they had for English, oh goodness, I want to say they were probably, I don't know, maybe around 2010 or 12 or so, but it had been a while. The other reason there could be a delay is the example we're using right now for math. It could be that the frameworks are delayed at the state level, which would then delay us getting new and updated materials. But we do keep records of that.
Mine is more kind of like a comment question. So I believe, so math is coming up, but then I believe I heard in 3 years ELA will be coming up as well.
Well, we'll see, because even though we adopted Study Sync in, oh, what year was that? Was that 22 that we adopted Study Sync? Right, from Springboard, which is published through College Board, very, very rigorous. It could be that because we adopted it in that year, those materials may have been published maybe a few years earlier than that. And so we may opt to say, once the state releases updated materials, we may say, based upon the timeline, based upon our budget, does it make sense for us to then adopt in between?
All right, my turn. All right, my question is for like middle school and the high school. Is there a textbook copy in the classroom for the students and the one that they take home so they're not carrying a textbook with them throughout the day? How does that work?
And that's going to vary by subject. So just as an example, for English language arts, which is that Study Sync, that information is available on their devices. So they shouldn't have to take home anything as it relates to an English language arts textbook.
Mhm.
But there may be other subjects, like science as an example, that maybe if there's homework or something given, they might have to, depending upon what is assigned to them to take home.
So are we cautious though and aware that we have a copy in the classroom so they don't have to carry their book back and forth? And have
We-
a copy at home
we-
versus virtual or with whatever format it is?
We are trying to be extremely cautious of that, and because we don't want students carrying heavy items home.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, how feasible is it for teachers to request a Spanish version copy of a textbook? Let's say a student's in an English class, but their primary language is Spanish, and they're not able to understand the information in the textbook because of the language barrier. Uh, how feasible is it for us to provide a textbook in their language so that they can continue in that class?
And so, in those cases, because we do want to make sure that students are presented with standards-based material, we would need to rely on teachers to communicate with the principal or communicate directly with us, so that we can find a way to provide additional materials to support the student. And an example of that, I believe most recently was with some social studies materials at the middle school level, which we were able to get for students who needed those materials.
How soon was that student able to get that textbook?
And Dr. Pendleton, do you recall the timeline for that? About 4 weeks.
Thank you.
I didn't realize you had moved. I'm looking over.
I probably shouldn't ask for this clarification, but I'm going to. So in that scenario that a student has an ELA class, how appropriate is it to use a Spanish textbook when the content for that course is English? And I don't want to make this complicated, but I think it's important to articulate that.
I'll speak to that. And what I'd like to share is that because English is a language that of acquisition, then the teacher would provide scaffold English language development through through the class. And the goal is to begin that academic language in both designated and integrated English development. So in that scenario, we wouldn't necessarily provide the content in Spanish, but we provide the strategies to be able to give the student content access to the core curriculum in English.
Dr. Causey Bush, you said that they recommend the textbook and then we adopt the textbook. Do we have a deadline by when we have to do it once they recommend it?
So usually that, the State Board of Education, so we're anticipating eagerly to see math materials on the state's website October, November of 2025. And once that list is published, we typically start the process immediately because we want to maximize the amount of time we have to engage with these materials to make as best a selection as possible. And that's the committee who makes that selection, and they have to use a rubric to go through and check off all the various items after they've had time, of course, to vet and pilot it in the classroom. And so it would be optimal for us to have the pilots completed and the actual vetting and recommendations. Typically, April is a good timeline because wanting to make sure that there's time for the public to view and the public means everyone. Students could come in and view, board members, parents. They have to be displayed for the public to view, flip through, and then the recommendation is formally made and submitted at a board meeting for the recommendation of the materials and then the actual purchase of those materials.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bush. Okay, I have a motion from trustee Anguiano and a second from trustee Martinez Lara to approve item 7.2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 7.3, educational services, Avid Senior College Trip.
This item is for the board to approve the attendance of the Banning High School Avid Senior Trip on October 8th through the 9th, 2024.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 7.3?
I move to open and discuss.
I second.
Any discussion or questions? No. I have a motion from trustee Ruiz and a second from trustee Novales to approve item 7.3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 7.4, educational services, District Williams Report, fourth quarter, 2023-24.
This item is for the board to accept the Williams legislation fourth quarter report for the 2023-24 school year from the Riverside County Office of Education.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 7.4?
I move to open.
Second?
Any discussion or questions? No. Okay. I have a motion from trustee Anguiano and a second from trustee Martinez Lara to approve item 7.4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 8.1, human resources, Claremont Graduate University Memorandum of Understanding.
This item is for the board to approve the Claremont Graduate University Memorandum of Understanding for the 2025 through 27 school years.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 8.1?
I move to open and discuss.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? No. I have a motion from trustee Ruiz and a second from trustee Martinez Lara to approve item 8.1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 9.1, business services, certification of unused site annual report.
This item is for the board to approve the unused site annual report as requested by the California Department of General Services.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 9.1?
I move.
I second.
Any discussion or questions?
I do have questions, but I was wondering, is it possible to get a really full report on this in like a next board meeting? Would that work?
You would have to be specific with what you were specifically looking at. Then yes, we can bring back any information based upon your request.
Okay, because right now we have, we purchased these properties that, for $1.8 million, we are spending approximately 23,000, almost $24,000 a year in charges for taxes, and we have spent over $278,000 to carry these on the books, and we are now, according to the records that we have, it's $2.5 million for these, and I'd kind of like to find out, and I think it's going to take too long here, find out, and I know this evening, there's like $21,000 to $22,000 for waivers because we're not using these properties. So I would like to see if we could get a report on the reasons for purchasing these, you know, full addresses and descriptions, which we don't have. When these were purchased by whom and from whom, sales agreements, deeds, and, the carrying charges that we keep accruing and what we're planning on doing with these. I would just like to have a report on these because I know that we talked about them before and we have this bond coming up. So I just think it would be a good idea to talk about these in a little more detail.
And so to be clear, just to make sure I'm hearing properly, I think I understand a report of, reason purchased. I know there's missing an address or two on that list, the deed, other information. That's one piece. The next question I have is any of this a part of a discussion that you like to come back to the board about? These are the properties we have. Should we still have them? Should we sell them? Should we do X, Y, Z?
Because I know some of them are, I'd like to see these and where they are located and do we really need these? And I know some of them are, they're all different. So I'd like to see them because we're looking at $2.5 million. I know we have deficits. So, we kind of looking at them again and saying, okay, where do we go from here? Some of them are from 1989, but some of them have been purchased in 2017, 2018, 2019. So I kind of like to see why we have these and and we mentioned this before. So I kind of like to think maybe this needs to be on a board agenda if anybody else.
So more in depth about the properties.
Right. And
But the biggest point I think I'm taking home from what you're saying is we still have to pay X amount of dollars every year and the property is sitting there. So when you add that up over the course of several years, it equates to a lot. That's what I'm hearing.
right, because we paid out 1.8, almost $1.9 million for these properties. And we have paid a total of about $240,000 in maintenance fees. And the other thing too is we haven't even talked on liability and insurances for these properties. That's just on taxes alone. So I kind of like to see, since we are talking about fiscally not having the funds that we need right now, and especially with the deficits that we've been talking about and the maintenance that our maintenance teams has done such an amazing job. Maybe it's time for us to look and see if we have funds that we can utilize in a better way, if that's possible.
And so, Ms. Herrera, at this time, do you have anything to add or can you provide like a timeline? Because I know you've worked on some of this to provide some of that information.
Absolutely. And so in terms of timeline, definitely something that I need to work with the team to figure out what would be the best way to prioritize this particular item in terms of information. It is going through many, many records, possibly even going to the county clerk's office and reaching out to title companies and gathering that information. I do want to then say, though, as part of the acquisition of any real property for a school district, it doesn't have to be for educational purposes. And so there may have been some reason for that. And so we'll go ahead and work through this. And again, the particular item here that's up for approval is really an annual certification that is part of the Office of Public School Construction to notify them which properties we own that are currently not being utilized. And so just part of the annual process, but they do definitely understand the concerns and or just wanting the clarity and or transparency to the community in terms of what are the properties that we own and what were the intended purposes, and possibly looking at how to leverage those properties for future projects and or even a cash flow basis as well.
Is it my understanding, if I read that correctly, that we are not eligible for any waivers on this right now from the Riverside County Office of Education?
So to date, I have not seen an assessment from the county, but that will be part of the research aspect of looking at these properties and in just conversation, and also part of today's presentation with the facilities, that is the focus from the Business Services Department to really work on what are available resources to maximize the facilities for our students. So definitely properties are on the table in terms of just discussion.
Okay, but I guess my question right here is, right now, it looked like on this particular one that no, that we are not eligible for waivers on this. Is that correct, or am I misreading that?
I will follow up. I don't have that answer with me right now.
Oh,
There
I
is
thought-
an assessment amount. However, I have not seen any assessment fees coming in from the county. However, again, through the process, I'll go ahead and provide that information. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, actually, when I was looking at this, when it says, it says, do any of these sites listed below meet conditions for a waiver as outlined in section 4 of the Form SAB 424? If yes, please complete the form. And we have checked no. So is it my understanding that none of these are eligible for a waiver to be used for our sites currently?
And so I'll definitely follow up on the waiver process. This is a routine item that's been checked off for quite a few years. I believe this particular waiver is a little bit different as it applies to the law, but definitely something I can follow up with.
Okay, thank you.
So the comment had to do with the Rancho San Gregorio development, but definitely we'll go ahead and follow up and provide some clarifying information. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I have a motion from trustee Novales and a second from trustee Anguiano to approve item 9.1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 9.2, business services contractual agreements.
This item is for the board to approve and or ratify contractual agreements as provided.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 9.2?
I move.
Oh, I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay. I have a motion from trustee Ruiz and a second from trustee Martinez Lara to approve item 9.2. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 9.3, business services, monthly fiscal services reports.
This item is for the board to approve monthly fiscal services reports, purchase orders, warrant summary, and commercial warrant registers.
Is there a motion and second to open and discuss item 9.3?
I move to open and discuss.
A second?
Any discussion or questions? I have a motion from trustee Anguiano and a second from trustee Novales to approve item 9.3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Item 10.1, board members' comments. Would anyone like to start?
Okay, I'll go first. So first of all, thank you so much for hanging tight with us. I know it's a little later than usual, so thank you for your time. I definitely am excited that we started the new school year and seeing all of our kids and our staff on campus. And thank you for our staff that worked so hard over the summer to create a healthy, safe learning environment for our students. I want to thank Mr. Rufus for ensuring that our student was safe during the central incident. I know that we all care about our students and want to make sure that they're safe given our current, I guess, our world and the situation that our kids are growing up in outside of their homes. I know that there was a post from one of the Beaumont source or some news group regarding the incident on social media, and I appreciate that Mr. Davis was able to follow up on that and reiterate that we are here for the safety of our students and that we are all a team and that we can all help to ensure that we have that safe environment for our students. And I'm looking forward to back to school nights next week, or some happened this week, right? And then next week we have a few more, so that's very exciting to meet our students, teachers and staff, and just continue to provide that involvement in our students' education. And I am excited just for the upcoming events, whether it's sports or any other activities that our students have. And so thank you again, and I'm here if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for hanging in here and for all that you do with the two presentations. I want to welcome back all the teachers and students. As I just started my new school year as well, we know the beginning of the year is exciting, yet it's also very tiring, so be kind to those little kids. Thank you and have a good night.
I think Ms. Anguiano covered it very well. Thank you to everyone that put their heart and soul during the summer. Like I said, me and the heat, we don't get along. So for those of you who went out, did the summer school and did all the maintenancing for these kiddos to get back to school and be very, very excited and want to go to school every day, thank you so much. To Mr. Casares, thank God that he was there where he was for our student, because like my fellow board member said, safety, one of our main concerns in this district. So very grateful that he was there for one of our students, and very grateful that nothing happened to her apart from that scare. Looking forward to the back to school nights, and looking forward to all the kiddos' accomplishments, and through their accomplishments, the teachers' accomplishments and all the events. Thank you for hanging in there.
I'll just keep mine really brief. Kudos to everything that everybody else said. And I also want to thank all of the people that came to the Benning High School back to school. The energy was incredible. And I took some time to talk to some people there, teachers and staff, and the energy and the positivity of what was happening just from individuals was amazing. You guys are all amazing. And I think that we've come so far, new staff, everybody doing their part, like Mr. Davis said, and it's so exciting to see. This is going to be a great year. Thank you.
So I was at the pep rally as well, and I particularly enjoyed that last portion. We are banning. I love that. That's gonna be stuck in my head. Um, I will, right. I want to say thank you to the staff that was there, that put their time and effort into being there, and listening to the trainings and taking it all in, being there for the students, because that's our job. We want to do everything we possibly can to give these students the best opportunity possible in a safe environment. And thank you to all the staff. Everyone's doing their part, and I say it every time, and I mean it every time. We are extremely grateful for all your hard work that you do throughout the entire year. Thank you very much. And I know Myra has said in the past that, we are here for our constituents. We always have been, and we always will be. If I have met with constituents privately, if they so chose to, and if I'm more than willing to meet with any of my constituents, any of my fellow board members' constituents, if they would like to talk. So just to reiterate what Myra has said in the past, we are here if anybody needs to speak with any one of us individually. No more than 2 at a time, unfortunately. So, congratulations also to my fellow board members. We are running unopposed. Yes.
I do want to say the other day, speaking of constituents, I was watering my lawn, and I had someone come up and shake my hand and say, "You guys are all doing such a great job. Just wanted to thank you." And I thought that was surprising and delightful.
I definitely feel like with BTA's support, continued support, that we are being told that we are moving in a good direction, that the board is doing good with how things have been done previously in the past. So I'm very happy working with this board, and I hope we continue with the momentum. So we do not need, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. Item 11.1, future board items. Does anybody?
The one thing that I would like that I mentioned, that's on the properties. Yeah, a more in-depth study of those properties and what we can do to use them to our best advantage or to sell them and whatever we need.
Any others? Item 12 and 13 is not needed, so we'll go to item 14.1, adjourn a meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a motion from trustee Ruiz and a second from trustee Martinez Lara to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. This meeting is adjourned at 9:55 PM.